Heading into the midterms, President Trump says a new Republican majority will get to work on things like birthright citizenship. Section 1 of the 14th Amendment reads, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Joining us now, Fox News contributor, former Chief Assistant U.S. Attorney Andrew McCarthy, and former Deputy Assistant Attorney General John Yoo. Welcome to both of you.
Thanks, Shannon.
Hi.
Okay, so there's a lot out there, including very thoughtful things from both of you. Let me start with this from Jonathan Turley, writing in USA Today. He says, the meaning of these words, the and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, those words might be answered by the newly reconstructed court with two Trump appointees, Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh. The textual and historical arguments supporting the narrower interpretation are likely to appeal to those justices and could leave Chief Justice John Roberts as the swing vote. Andrew, I'll start with you. Where do you think this goes if it winds up at SCOTUS?
Well, I think it's an uphill battle. I was very much in sympathy with what Senator Cruz had to say. I think it's a very bad policy to give birthright citizenship to the children of illegal aliens. On the other hand, as a legal matter, I think it's difficult to reverse. I do think, Shannon, that the lower the species of law that it would go up to the Supreme Court under, the more difficult it would be to reverse the policy. And what I mean by that is, if the president tried to do this by executive order, I don't think he can. I think there's been, statutes of Congress that have been out there that have codified the 14th Amendment for years that we've been operating under. That means Congress has asserted itself here. I don't think the president can reverse that by executive order. I think even if you got legislation, it's 50-50 at best whether the Supreme Court would sign off on it, and an amendment is very tough. It's a heavy lift.
It is a huge lift. Okay, so there are other scholars out there, conservatives, who say this isn't what it seems on its face, that when you get to those words and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, that's the turning point. Hans von Spakovsky over at the Daily Signal writes this: the fact that a tourist or illegal alien is subject to our laws and our courts if they violate our laws while they're here does not place them within the political, quote, jurisdiction of the United States, as that phrase was defined by the framers of the 14th Amendment. What do you say, John?
I think Hans, unfortunately, and other of my conservative friends are mistaken. That phrase, subject to the jurisdiction thereof, actually applies to three discrete groups of people at that time in 1867, 1868, when this amendment was drafted and ratified. It applies to Indians. Those have been the largest group who are not considered subject to the laws of the United States, even though they're on the territory. Foreign diplomats, and, in the unlikely event, occupying enemy soldiers. So it's very precise language. Put that language aside. The history of the country from the beginning, from the founding in 1788-89, all the way to the present, the traditional understanding has been if you are born in the United States, no matter whether your parents are citizens or not, you're a citizen of the United States. There have been Supreme Court opinions, the practice of the government. So the interpretation that Hans and my other conservative friends are making, it's interesting, but it would it would require the Supreme Court to overrule its own precedents, those of the practice of the government, and I think the widely held understanding of most legal experts and scholars for 200 years.
I want to ask you both quickly to weigh in very quickly on the same idea. Does Congress do something on this? Senator Lindsey Graham has said he's going to introduce something. Andy, do you think they get it done?
No, not anytime soon, no.
Well, especially not if Democrats win the House. John, what do you think?
I don't see how this moves out of Congress. I think a lot of Republicans would vote against it. Plus, I think this is one of the rules that makes America, I believe we're an exceptional nation. And the fact that all the other countries in the world, especially old Europe, have the rule that your parents' citizenship, your blood determines your citizenship, is a reason why America should keep the traditional rule.
Well, and you know that people point to the fact that Canada and America are really some of the only Western and developed nations that still have this policy. Much of Europe does not anymore. All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. Great to have a legal debate with you as always.